But I want to thank you all. This is extremely helpful to us in helping get the message out and communicate with the public. So I personally want to thank all of you here. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's been a crazy day. It's been a tough night, and we're preparing for what we imagine will continue to be a number of protests and a number of actions. What we saw last night, as I mentioned previously, those were not protests. Those are folks who gathered late at night, and their intention from the very beginning was to make trouble. They are not a representation of who we are as a city. If you want to know who we are as a city, look at the protests that we had over the weekend. We had many more people, and it was extremely peaceful. And that's who we are as a city, and that's what we're going to continue to be about. In light of what happened last night, and tracking very closely not only chatter on social media, but also what's happening in other cities, I've conferred with a number of community leaders. I've conferred with the council president. I've conferred with other elected officials. I've conferred with public safety officials. I've conferred with the governor and her team. And I've decided to institute a curfew effective tonight from 9 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock in the morning. Again, that goes into effect tonight, curfew at 9 p.m. to 6 o'clock in the morning. This is an executive order that is separate from the executive orders that we have issued in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it falls under the same state powers. If we need to extend the executive order will be extended it would need to be extended with an affirmative vote of the Providence City Council. And so we're taking these steps today because we want to do everything we can to keep our community and keep our folks safe and protect folks' property and protect folks' businesses that they've worked so hard to build up over the years as safe as possible. This is not a decision that we take lightly. This is not a decision that we make easily. But in consultation with my colleagues, the mayors from Cranston and my colleagues from Warwick, we all believe that this is the right step to take. What we've seen in other cities is a pattern of peaceful protests during the day and then violence happening at night. And that's the same thing that we have seen here. So in choosing to not only institute a curfew, but specifically to institute a curfew around 9 o'clock, because we also want to time this when after the sun goes down and when the problems have started of looting and violence in other cities, and that we've seen here as well. So I know that folks have been cooped up for a long time because of the pandemic, and now because of the violence that we saw last night, we're asking folks to stay indoors for longer during times when they would rather be outside. But I hope everyone understands that this is important for us as an entire community, again, to keep us all safe and make sure that people are inside, so it allows our public safety officials, our police officers, to ensure that no one is out there causing trouble when they shouldn't be. And again, I want to make clear that what we want to put a stop to is not peaceful protesting. In fact, we believe that these steps that we are taking make it safer for people to come out and feel comfortable exercising their right and protesting peacefully. However, we cannot have what happened last night happen again. And so to speak about what happened last night, I want to make 2 points. The first point that I want to make is that had it not been for the efforts of the police department and of the community, the damage that we saw last night and into this morning would have been far worse. Our police department, they were professionals. They comported themselves as we would hope for them to. They were professionals as they were getting pelted with bottles and bricks and rocks and hurled insults. We're proud of that, and that's the level of professionalism that we expect going forward as well. But it wasn't just the police out there keeping us safe. There were a number of community leaders. There's a community leader that I want to introduce you to. His name is Benny Stevens. Bernie Stevens?
Benny.
Okay, Benny Stevens. And the reason why we chose to come together at this location is that Benny, on his own accord, met up with another community leader. His name is Dwayne Boo Hackney. And they took it upon themselves to do what they could to de-escalate the situation and to ask people to either go home or to remain peaceful. Not everybody heeded their warnings, but many people did. And so after the protests, or after the issues moved from downtown, they started moving into the neighborhoods. And a pack of young people came to this very store, and I believe they had even breached inside of the store. Benny and Boo, they stood right here, put their bodies in between the store and the people that were looking to loot it, and they said, "Not here in our neighborhood. We are better than this. This is not who we are." And they were able to get them to not loot this place. I spoke with the owner of this establishment earlier this morning, and he said that many of the other businesses that they have throughout the city and in other cities were completely ransacked. There is only one reason why this store did not get ransacked, or rather there are two reasons: Benny and Boo. And this is an example of how every single person can take it upon themselves to be part of the solution. Every single person can play a critical role here. So I want to thank Benny and ask him to say a couple of words. And I want to urge everyone in the community to use that as an inspiration. You want to know how to help? It might not be right for everyone to put yourself out there potentially in harm's way, but everyone can have a conversation about structural inequalities in our society, how injustices have prolonged and existed for such a long time, and the way that we need to demand a level of urgency to make these changes here in our community and throughout society. We can all play a role, and I'll ask Bernie to please share some words.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to acknowledge Pastor Sherrod and Shondell Bernie. They've been diligent in what we've been doing throughout the city. And I definitely want to shout out Boo Hackney. This hat I have on is called Cherish. It's called We Are Providence Cherish. That's my Facebook page. We're supposed to cherish this. Now, I've seen different times where people have marches and everything, and I've seen the one earlier this week, which was peaceful and was commended. And then I took a bike ride last night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I ride by, and I come back up the street, and Boo's standing outside. So why is Boo standing outside here? And he's pacing back and forth. So I make a U-E, I just park near the side of the curb, and he goes, "Benny, they're trying to break in here, they're coming up here, not today." So I said, "Well, I guess I'm hanging out then, man." Not today. 15, 20, 30 cars came, loaded with people. Most of them we knew. They looked at us and said, "There goes Boo and Benny. Let's keep it moving." But we didn't just tell them to not just keep it moving. We actually told them to go home. It's 4 in the morning. Go home. It's over. 4 in the morning. Wake up tomorrow and do something else. That's why we stopped and stayed here. We've been here all of our lives. I've never seen this before. Not tearing up stuff we want to go to. When I wake up in the morning and I want to go to Family Dollar, what if it ain't there? Now where do I go? Into Cranston? I can go to Cranston, but my Family Dollar is right there. Your Family Dollar is right there. We need that. We need them to stop. Marching is fine. Acting a fool is not. We are Providence, so cherish.
We'll take, are you all set, President?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You're all set? Yeah. We'll take any questions.
You mentioned Warwick and Cranston. Are they also having this curfew at 9 tonight?
Yeah, they're actually starting their curfews at 8 today. But we've been talking throughout the day, and we've all modeled our executive orders on each other's so that they're as similar as possible. The change is that Cranston and Warwick decided to start it at 8, which is fine. I fully understand. We weighed doing it at 8, at 9, or at 10, and we settled on doing it at 9 here in Providence.
Are you all going until 6 a.m.?
I believe they're going into 6 a.m. as well, yes.
No, I would check in. Cranston just announced it was 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., but I would check in with Warwick first.
Mayor, where will you be stationing the National Guard?
Say it again?
Where will you be stationing the National Guard?
So that's a decision for the National Guard to make, and yesterday was such an eye-opening experience in how quickly the crowd was able to gather. And previously, before social media, before so many people were connected to social media, even just a couple of years ago, whenever these demonstrations would happen, there would be enough lead time that we'd be able to plan accordingly and position ourselves to effectively address it. What we saw last night was really something different with the speed they were able to come together. And so, to answer your question, the National Guard will be at different strategic locations, but at the same time, we don't know exactly where people will go, where people will gather. So the National Guard is ready to shift positions and change to different places, but it's all dependent on the intelligence that we're getting in real time and responding to the situation. But we do believe with the National Guard being closer to the ground and closer to the places where people might come together, that the response will be quicker and more effective.
Commissioner, can you describe from your perspective with police and fire, what role do you play in the security operation? In other words, are you the coordinator of it, or are you following the National Guard as you secure Providence?
So when we ask for resources from whether it's mutual aid or the Guard, we'll be the lead on public safety. I mean, it's a coordination. It's a combined, decision and model that we're all used to. But we'll collaborate with them, whoever their officer in charge for that group, and make sure that we're deploying those resources appropriately. Same with the fire. The police and fire work closely, and whoever the officer in charge on both departments, if I happen to be there, or the colonel or the chief of the fire, we collaborate with one another and make a joint decision and then execute that decision. State police and Woonsocket and Guard, same kind of concept as we try to mitigate and prevent this from happening in the city.
Can you paint a picture for us? Are people just going to be staged in different areas? And also, what will happen if someone breaks curfew? What would that look like?
So this is a tool for public safety officials. We want people to leave the streets of Providence at 9 p.m. So if we have an outbreak, it's a tool that we could use. We beg and we ask all our community, please go home at 9 p.m. and let public safety monitor, and then we'll be able to effectively respond to any incident that we may see and face. So we're not going to be arresting or issuing summons very similar to what we've seen in COVID. We're asking people, and it gives us the legal authority to disperse people off the street at 9 p.m.
Commissioner, can you explain that people can be in their cars?
Sure. When we say a curfew, 9 p.m. with pedestrians, people that are walking, people are going to be traversing, they're going to be driving in their vehicles. They may be going back and forth to home or the drugstore or pick up food or restaurants. That's not our concern. Our concern is for people being out on the street, on their feet, and then causing problems. So if we can eliminate that, we can eliminate the potential escalation of violence. So this does not pertain to people driving. I mean, we have some legal authority. If they refuse and they continue, we then can issue some very similar to covert with mask wearing, or groups over 5, now over 15. We have a legal authority, and they're subjected to fines. But we find that we don't need to go there. Just asking and demanding that we have the authority. You should not be on the street after 9 p.m. in the city gets us through this issue, in the short term and beyond if necessary.
Are there any areas that Providence police are going to be bolstered in tonight?
Any areas where Providence police have concerns?
Extra police tonight?
Look, we're going to be monitoring like we did last night as well. We're monitoring any intelligence that we got a fusion center here locally that's 24/7, and so they feed us information, and based on that information we adjust our resources. So we continue to monitor it. We don't disclose what our vulnerabilities or concerns are. We'll be ready if there's anything similar to last evening. We're hoping that the message to our community and to those folks that want to do that violence, sends a clear message that it's not going to happen here because of good community members and leaders that are setting the conditions, that this is not going to happen in Providence, and the community is going to ensure that they stand behind stamping this out.
We saw a coordinated effort last night where various municipal police forces, in fact even the Massachusetts State Police were involved. If there were to be an outbreak of violence outside of Providence, is Providence part of any sort of shared resources where we might see Providence police officers in Cranston or North Providence, etc.? Is that something you could do?
Yeah, it is. We depend on mutual aid for public safety, both police and fire. And so if there's an incident in Warwick or Cranston or Pawtucket, we're sending resources upon their request to help them through, like they did with us last evening. That's how it works, and this isn't a novel idea or approach. This has been consistent when we need emergency resources, police or fire. We have that ability under the statute to call in for mutual aid, and we reciprocate and send our resources when needed.
Do you have any new insight as to who organized last night's riot?
Do we have any insight how and why they? Of course, we have 65 defendants, so we know who they are, and we're also continuing with evidence that's up on social media, pre and post the incident, and so we're actively trying to construct who was behind it, and perhaps who else that may not have been apprehended last evening that was responsible. So if you have video, if you can be of any assistance, if you're a business owner and you have video of people trying to set your business on fire or breaking into your business, please contact the Providence Police and provide us with that video. If we can identify those subjects, we will go and arrest and hold them responsible for what they did last evening.
Is there a timeline on this? Do we know if this will be again tomorrow? Is it till further notice? Is there a timeline on the curfew?
The curfew timeline?
By Rhode Island law, the curfew is in effect for 7 days until June 9th, and then after that we'll assess whether to extend it, and if we do extend it, it will require the affirmative vote of the Providence City Council.
Anything else?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Get some rest, everyone.